victims treated worse than criminals. So a couple of reporters seem to have a lot of real estate in the mind of Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, as he seemed to snap after hearing one particular term that, I don't know, we've been kind of using it for so long, but it looks like, scratch that. It doesn't look like they're actually trying to change the language for specific behavior, and this is being done on purpose.
I would just say it like this, that some of the trends that we are witnessing, the number of trends that we have intercepted over the course of these first, how long has it been now, y'all, 12 weeks? It's been tremendous. And so that's because there's been a real strategic effort on the part of my administration to coordinate with civic leaders, with community-based organizations, again, with city departments. And so we're seeing some of the fruit of that labor, and I'm grateful again that the men and women who serve this city on the front line are providing the type of system of care that's going to be necessary in order to bring structure and calm in the city.
Quick follow-up, when you say trends, what do you mean? Can you give us an example of a couple of the trends you're seeing?
Oh, you're not aware of some of these large gatherings?
You're talking about the mob actions?
No, that's not appropriate. We're not talking about mob actions. I didn't say that.
What happened?
Okay, hold on a second, okay, respectfully. These large gatherings,
That caused damage.
these large gatherings, just hold on a second, y'all. I promise you, we have time to talk. It's important that we speak of these dynamics in an appropriate way. This is not to obfuscate what is actually taking place, but we have to be very careful when we use language to describe certain behavior. There's history in this city. I mean, to refer to children as like baby Al Capones is not appropriate. So let me finish, please, okay? What I'm saying is that when you ask for very specific examples, there have been other attempts to have large gatherings, and we've intercepted those attempts.
Well, I'm sorry, folks. He just went full auto with that word. But anyway, why is he so angry at hearing that term? For anyone who didn't hear the term was mob, hence the reference to baby Al Capones. Now, if you ask me, baby Al Capone sounds a lot like a sweet dessert or something. But getting to the point here, Mayor Johnson doesn't want to offend these kids, these teenagers that cause a lot of, well, if we go by his wording, they cause a lot of ruckus. Does anybody still use that term? Ruckus? Anyway. But just like he was asked to define the trends, we're going to define like what kind of ruckus was going on here. The teens, about 40 of them, 40 were throwing bottles. They were jumping on people's cars and just trying to start fights while running in and out of the stores. And it got so bad that police officers had to ask store owners to just go ahead and close up shop. Does that sound like a gathering to you?
Police are hoping that these arrests send a message to the suspects and their families. Others we spoke with hopes this sends a larger message to the whole city to help Chicago's youth. Chaos outside a South Loop 7-Eleven Sunday night. The crowd seen here rushing out of the store with their arms full of items, some throwing them in the air. Inside the store, aisles were ravaged and ransacked. Police say now 40 people, mostly teens, are facing misdemeanor charges as a result of the so-called teen takeover.
We haven't arrested people like that, but this group got so out of hand that we had no choice.
Alvin Jackson saw the crowd at Roosevelt and Canal grow from a few dozen to a few hundred.
Just a few kids, then it got thicker and thicker and thicker, and they kept coming and kept coming and kept coming.
Alvin says at first things appeared to be peaceful. Then a small group of teenagers started to block traffic and attempt to break into stores.
Throwing the bottles, jumping on people's cars, trying to start fights, and trying to run into stores and stuff like that.
Police say once the crowd got out of hand, officers had no choice but to make arrests.
Tell you what, if you think that this is just a gathering, just tell me in the comments. If not, then go ahead and leave a like for the video and make sure you're also subscribed to the channel, all right? Cool, appreciate that. But let's go ahead and call a spade, all right? This is the woke madness that we live in. These kids can just go up to stores, destroy property, hurt businesses, hurt people. But at the end of the day, we have to understand them. We have to coddle them. We have mayors who sympathize more with them rather than the victims themselves. Like, what kind of world are we living in here, folks? They're not babies who have no sense of what they're doing. It feels like the system is now catered to the suspects, to people who want to bring harm to us. Meanwhile, you can't even tell this guy that a group of 40 teenagers that caused havoc is a mob. Well, that explains why this keeps happening in Chicago, I guess.
It's literally scary to go in and get a drink at 5 in the morning. You're always looking over your shoulder.
Chicagoans are expressing their concerns once again this morning after another overnight string of armed robberies, largely targeting 7-Elevens on the north and northwest sides. This is the third rash of early morning holdups at 7-Elevens across the city just this week.
A lot of gatherings, huh? This one story of a guy, a security guard from Chicago who was killed in a gas station, and you're not going to believe what the chief of the police department said. Like seriously, you need to watch this.
Video on social media posted just moments after showing a number of people using the station and pulling through the parking lot. This station is so new, open only 2 weeks. They still have the decorations up from their grand opening.
When they laid the foundation for this gas station, I was telling my wife, this place is gonna be trouble. I was telling her this is a perfect place for a crime because it's right off the expressway. They can commit a crime and jump right on the expressway and just leave. It's crazy.
But police say this is a safe area.
They've got a lot of cameras in many different angles, so try and put people at ease a little bit here. They're well lit up at night. Our officers are in the area constantly throughout the evening. We have surveillance in the area, flock cameras, so we will make sure this area is safe and stays safe.
Yeah, that sounds safe, all right? When a security guard can be killed. I mean, like, what's not safe about that? And he keeps talking about cameras as if they're like turrets. Cameras don't deter crime anymore. And here's what really grinds my gears. These woke politicians like Johnson, they like to treat their people like kids. It's kind of like spoiling a child. So imagine your kid cries because they can't have more candy, right? But you know, since again, you're the flipping adult in this scenario, you understand that candy is bad for them at this age. So what do? You tell them no. They can cry all they want, but the answer's still gonna be no. I don't care how red you turn. Now, comparing that to what the woke agenda wants, the first moment the kid asks for candy, they deliver. But not just that, they even get other kinds of candy. Spoil them rotten, why don't you? And just to really drive the point home here, I really wish a lot of people knew about this. Like, think about a man who wants to do his job, but instead of being rewarded, he's killed.
That day we went bowling on our anniversary, and he said to me he had to go home and get his clothes so he can go to work. And the last thing I remember, him going out that door and turned around and just looked at me. And that was it.
Barbara Fisher worried about her husband every time he left for work at the Showplace Icon Theater in the South Loop.
But he loved the job, and whenever they called him, whatever shift it was, he just went.
Recently, she says his work became more and more dangerous. Fisher was beaten back in February for enforcing the theater's new rules. No guests under the age of 17 can enter without a parent or guardian after 6 p.m. It's a rule a staff member tells CBS 2 began after they saw an increase in disruptive young adults at that location.
I said, this is what you need to do. Go to work and just leave the teenagers alone. He said, but I can't do that because I'm getting paid and not doing my job. So it costed him his life.
I mean, I don't need to say more than that. The last message is that you have to realize people voted for this. This whole agenda where suspects and the criminals are taken care of, the city of Chicago voted for this. And sadly, it's driving them down a path that's only going to lead to more destruction. It's time to wake up, not be woke. But what are your thoughts on this? Should politicians focus more on the message that they're sending to these kids? Or should they instead uphold the law and do something? Anything for the law-abiding citizens for that matter. You guys tell me. Now, before I go, I just want to thank you guys for watching. Appreciate the likes. Thanks for subscribing. And I'm going to see you guys on the next one.